of the hills because it was slimy.
Yep.
Our blade has been out there and was out there again yesterday, and there is plenty of gravel. That gravel was added to the speaking with the engineers, that was put into the contractor or the construction bid, so it doesn't come out of county money. So that I would assume that that bill will be turned into the state to be paid. There was some concern with the township. There were some rumors going around that it was not done up to snuff. Frustrating, because we had engineers down there.
That's why engineers there.
Yeah. There were 55 different compaction tests done during the process, and all 55 passed. If you haven't had a chance to drive down there, drive down there. It looks pretty impressive.
Looks good.
It looks good. And the trucks are flying through there.
Boy, they are going.
We were out there blading again yesterday, and we were pulling over with the blades for corn trucks going through there like you can't believe. So hopefully that will take some of the pressure off what we all call the Monty Knutson Road, the Schmitz Road, because that road obviously has seen all kinds of traffic the last 2 years. I'm getting a lot of complaints from the Township Western that has done the work to their road, and they're still frustrated with Forward not doing anything with that first mile. We have put extra time into blading that first mile, which I don't agree with, because as we're talking about $100 a mile possibly or whatever, nothing's written in stone. Why are we out there babying this first mile all the time? Because the township has refused to make that mile better.
Well, they agreed, didn't they agree a year
Yeah,
ago they were
they
going to do this?
And nothing has been done. And I know Western Township is very frustrated with it.
Can we bill them for the extra?
Well, we never have.
I know, but I mean,
Well,
that might be an idea to get it together,
as soon as Brent finishes, I'm going to ask him the question as to in 25, what things we could improve on and or cost-saving measures that we could do. And one of them is, do we have the right to refuse blading something which the township should fix? Here's
Very
another
good
one.
question.
Here's another one. Is the road, the dump ground road, from Brent Roberts east. That thing has been beyond rough since I've been a junior in high school.
We can blade it 3 times a week.
Here's the thing. It's all rocks.
Yeah.
It's all rocks.
How can you blade that?
How do you blade
It's
that?
impossible to blade.
Yeah, you can't.
So
You go.
there's a case where the township should put a foot of clay and gravel and crown it, and then you could blade it. That shouldn't be our cost.
No.
That's
And
just
we
one
should-
example.
Yeah.
Over
And
throughout
we
the
shouldn't
county.
have to babysit these roads either.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because, and then they'll blame the blade operator.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And that's hard on equipment.
Absolutely.
That wrecks.
Yeah. Being we're on the subject, okay, if we're going to go to the $100 a mile, whatever we do in 2025, I think it is of utmost importance that when we do that, we have to set a limit on how many times we're going to blade these roads in the summer. Because you guys were there, I was there for 8 of the 9 meetings. And what I learned in those 8 of the 9 meetings was that they feel we need to blade our roads more. And I feel very confident in telling you guys this, that when the $100 a mile or whatever figure you guys come up with, your phone will ring and my phone will ring off the hook, and what we're going to hear is, well, we're paying $100 a mile. Why are we not seeing a blade every 2 weeks? Okay? They're going to want more blading on these roads. And I feel very confident that you are going to hear those types of phone calls.
See, and my comeback to that is you are getting essentially 10 grand, which is, let's say they have 40 miles of road miles. You are getting $250 per road mile from the state out of Prairie Dog that should go toward paying for blading.
Exactly.
And you're keeping it all.
So You know, I think that not only the $100 a mile, I think we have to sit down and say that this $100 a mile is gonna give you 5 passes a summer. And if you want more than 5 passes a summer on certain roads, you're gonna pay more. Because because I promise you, they're gonna expect. You're gonna see more and more, you're gonna hear more and more phone calls going, well, we're paying this $100 a mile, and we haven't seen a blade for 19 days. Okay? I can virtually guarantee it. It's gonna be another can of worms.
I don't think it's good to say one way or the other, because every year it's gonna be a little bit different.
It's gonna be a lot different, right?
I thought that we kind of made that abundantly clear that the blades were gonna run as needed.
Yeah.
Because by charging the $100 a mile, or whatever figure you come up with, okay? If we're blading more and using more
not gaining
fuel,
nothing.
we're not gaining anything.
No.
So not only do we have to, if we go this route, we also have to go the route of this is what you get for $100 a mile.
And I
And,
think Dan's right, that was made clear.
yeah, you know, so that is a concern of mine. As far as snow removal, you know, we've cut back. Obviously, last winter it was easy to cut back. We didn't have snow. But we are not out knocking every little pillow drift off these roads anymore like we used to, because it's a waste of time. It's hard on equipment when it's cold out there. That these blades do not get a workout in the summer. They're beat up in the winter. And the more we're chasing around for every little pillow drift because somebody doesn't want to drive through a pillow drift, number one, we're throwing precious gravel in the ditch. And number two, we're wasting fuel, time, beating up our equipment.
Equipment costs.
And we do move more snow on our roads than most counties around us. I think all you gotta do is drive their roads in the winter. So there's gotta be, we talked about it at the meeting of, one thing is not gonna solve this problem. It may be 5 different things. We have to make sure that we are doing that. You know, we're cutting back. You guys talked earlier, Dan did, that, we're not buying any equipment next year. I've spoke to both John Deere and to Cat and said, listen, we're not gonna be looking for bids for equipment. We're pushing everything out to 7 years. And, so they're not even calling anymore saying this machine's up, this machine's up. They know that what we're doing now is we're extending all our equipment out another 2 years. To try to cut back on our end. We are making cutbacks in the road department. We're trying to. So,
Interestingly enough, along this line, I usually have channel 12 on in the morning. This is exactly what Ward County is talking about right now.
Mhm.
And there's a county that's night and day from us in terms of their tax base and so on. They're extending all of their equipment right now because they can't afford it.
Yep.
So,
yeah. So, anyway, we kind of got off topic, but that bridge project is done. I think it turned out well. I would suggest you guys, if you get the time, go for a drive over there, see what was done.
Brent, is there any more riprap going on there, or is that all done? How is that?
According to the engineer, everything is done up to what specs were in the construction plan.
Okay. When I drove by there, I kind of was curious about that.
Like I said, I have not spoke to Brian on Tuesday or Wednesday, but I did speak to him several times on Monday. And basically, the last 6 loads of gravel that went on yesterday and Tuesday was going to be added to the construction cost.
Yeah.
And the way I understood Brian is that is a completed project.
I was just curious on why. I'm not saying that it should be. It looks different.
Mm-hmm.
See, before the weeds were all up, so you couldn't tell anyway.
And you guys, if you were out there yesterday, you can see that they did seed the inslopes.
Yeah, they did.
On Monday, they couldn't because of the rain. It was too wet. But either Tuesday or Wednesday morning, they did seed the inslopes. I noticed that. I was out there yesterday afternoon checking again. So I do believe that project is considered complete. Okay. A concern of mine on a different point with the road department is, And I think we need to address this, not necessarily today, but it's got to be something in the future that is addressed. As commissioners, the last several years, you guys have never said no to any townships that want to take these little bridges up. And about 5 or 6 of these little bridges now have been taken out in the last 4 or 5 years. You guys have spent a lot of money on culverts. Obviously these townships are not rebuilding little bridges. You guys are buying culverts because they're big culverts that need to be put in. And in that situation, the township is responsible for old bridge removal and for hiring a contractor and for paying to have these pipes put in. My concern is some of these townships are going on the cheap of that. We have seen 2 sites that you guys have bought culverts for that have been redone because, for lack of a better term, they were half-assed. There were 2 pipe bought in one project where the pipe was not even put in the channel. They put one pipe in between the bridge walls that were there, which they never pulled out, and they put another pipe outside the channel 2 feet high. And I went down, photographed it, spoke to the township. The contractor came back and did it better. In another project, there was 3 pipe bought by you guys where one of the pipe was not even in the channel. It was already backfilling with mud. The pipes were damaged. New pipe were put in, and it was meeting specs. And my concern is that if the townships cheap out on the installation and their portion of what's going on,
They're wrecking our.
and these pipes wash out in 5 years because they were done wrong, they're going to be here going, we need 3 more pipe.
Well.
And they're going to want you to pay for them.
That's on the agenda as far as our culvert policy. That
Yeah.
we need to review that. We haven't.
When these pipe are
We're
being
gonna dust
put
that
in,
off and look at it again.
when these pipe are being put in, they're going to have to meet certain standards. Now, I'm not mentioning any names, okay, but I think you know the 2 contractors I'm talking about.
Are they
And
required any engineering when these go in? See, maybe that's something they have to.
it's just something, there's going to have to be certain guidelines rather than just digging a hole. I mean, old material was being used and rocks were mixed in with the material. They weren't hauling new material and they were basically ripping out the bridge, throwing the pipes in and covering them up. Okay, and
If
it's,
they had an engineer do it, then Stan could blame the engineer.
so
Here's the thing,
it
the
is a
township couldn't
concern.
afford an engineer.
That's a problem.
It is a concern. I think some set of standards has to be
Look into
maintained.
that culvert policy, that we can maybe add wordage to that. So, all right, anything
Um,
else?
Well, as you guys know, the fairgrounds is done.
Good.
We used a little over 850 ton of millings, and we did get all the way to the front gate. The next time we get millings, I think we've got a lot of positive responses about it, and I think they would like to do that access road all the way back to the back gate, and that will be minor to do. You know, there was a lot of millings put down by the festival hall between the grandstands. We have had rain now, and we have no water running towards the festival hall, no water puddling up near the grandstands. Everything is running away as it should. Now we haven't had a 3-inch rain, but then if we get a 3-inch rain, there's no guarantee that we're not going to have water problems there. But I mean, your typical 1-inch rains, I'm not concerned about. Everything's running away. There's going to be, we're going to put a little bit more of the micro millings down over by the grandstands in the spring, as we did by the festival hall, but we've got a lot of positive feedback on it, and I hope you guys have too. And then, you know, the fair board, one of the fair board members purchased a table for the road department at their benefit that they had at the Eagles, so I've reached out and thanked that gentleman. Another $100, there was a $100 gift given to the guys that did they used that money that night at the Eagles, and the men that worked, or the crew that worked at the fairgrounds, they're the crew that went to that benefit. So thank you for everyone that had done that, to the fair board. So I think as far as things go at the fair board, things are pretty smooth.
That thing you did up in the south end, that looked pretty nice. I drove by there.
We filled all that in where the water sat for the 4-H campers. That's where we put a lot of the gravel we hauled out of there.
That'll be a big improvement.
It'll be a big improvement. We'll add a little bit more, you know, we gotta let it pack in, but it'll be a huge improvement for the campers back for the 4-Hers. So happy with that. Wings will be going on machines probably next week. Our machines are out cutting washboards with the moisture. Usually we pull the machines off beginning of November, but we're still out working because of weather.
Percolating now.
Yep, yeah, they're
You
working. And they're not doing a lot of mile, 2, 3, 4 mile stretches. They're working on washboards in bad areas, where a lot of the corn trucks and you know,
Right.
and we're noticing
Main
now
road.
with the moisture too, the added traffic is beating up the roads a little bit more. We needed this moisture this fall. It's important for that gravel to kind of freeze down and have some
Perfect
moisture on the
timing
top.
now.
Yep.
Are you on 5/8 now?
Yes, we're in 5/8. We went to winter hours along with the courthouse on Monday of this week, so we are on 5/8.
You couldn't get 10 hours of light to blade now.
No, guys were having to wait an hour in the morning to go out, so, yeah, when the courthouse went here Monday, November
Okay.
4th, we did too. We are in 5/8. Yes. And, plow trucks are ready to go. We have a, pretty serious beaver dam problem over by Bremen, underneath one of our county gravel roads. It was brought to our attention about 2 weeks ago. We went over immediately, and there's two 60-inch culverts. One of the 60-inch culverts was completely dammed off. There was not any water running through it. The other 60-inch culvert, there was no beaver dam in front of it, but there was no water running through it. On the inlet side, we're talking 3 feet higher than on the outlet side. We broke the beaver dam up that afternoon with our backhoe, and the one culvert that you couldn't see the beaver dam is completely inside the pipe. 3 days later, you'd have never known we were there.
Call Game and Fish.
We did. So a call was made. I got numbers from the water board, and a call was made, and the trappers were out there last week. Traps have been set. And what the beaver dams that are coming back that were taking 2 or 3 days and they were back, we haven't touched it now for almost 2 weeks, and it is slowing down, so I'm assuming they're having some luck. The trapper that set traps last week, unfortunately, is in Wyoming elk hunting this week, so I will get a progress report from him on Monday.
Okay.
But the
You
pipe...
could do that, couldn't you?
Well, the pipe that is plugged on the inside, I have reached out to a contractor that has a good-sized track hole with a thumb and asked him what he has done in the past, and he has told me, and me and him are meeting this afternoon to see. He figures he could, when he goes by with his track hoe, he says, I'll get that culvert open for you. And it won't be much of a cost, but trying to open up that pipe is going to be. These pipe they were put underneath our county road in 2010. These are new pipe. Okay, so we are addressing that situation. The backhoe is over right by Bremen, so we can run it out there and break up this beaver dam. But as you guys know with beavers, we could probably do that until you get rid of the problem. The problem just keeps coming back, and the problem is the beavers.
Right.
So, other than that, questions for me?
Any question for Brent?
We mentioned, and we'll work on this more of a priority list. Just for everybody to think about, once we get Hamburg done, which will be a big cost, we're gonna have bridges, that's another cost, but probably, if you think about, is south of the blinking light, probably has to come up there in priority, probably.
My opinion on what our next priority should be is not going to win me any votes. But I do not believe that an overlay on that 9 miles of 71 is
That's where I was, the
reality.
discussion.
That's south of Blinking Light, 71.
Being it runs into gravel, that's something we have to make.
I think that road should be ground up. It should be ground up.
There's a lot of rat holes under there though. You talk to the guys down there and they said that there's a lot of problems with that part of it, so I'm just telling you whatever.
Yeah, when you do that, you have to fix things.
I think if we were going to look at what was done on County 5, by the time we could afford to do something on that road down there, you're adding 2 miles and 10%, I think you're going to be looking at in upwards of close to $3 million to put a Band-Aid in essence
Right.
to a road that comes to a wide farm to market gravel road in the next couple.
Right.
When, you know, and people who are there say it's highly traveled, and sometimes that's not being objective. When was the last time you put, what do you call them?
An overlay?
No.
Chip seal?
No, the road sensors for.
The sensors to see what kind of,
Oh,
should we do that again
Yeah.
as just to state?
the state, the state, we can reach out to the state. I think it's been done in the last 5 years, but I can't
It has,
remember.
but boy, it's been 4 or 5 years ago,
Yeah.
because I remember at the time, County 5 was more than double the
Yeah.
traffic versus any other road in the county.
I think,
Is that right?
I think, my opinion, and I'm not trying to, one area over another area, but I think it is quite safe to say that our most traveled county road in Wells County is County 5.
Well, it is.
And I think that our next priority, whether it's 26, 27, whenever it is gonna have to be continued improvement on County 5.
You would get a lot of resistance from that, because those guys down south. every
Oh,
time
I'm
they
not
talk-
saying,
When-
I'm not
When
saying,
are we gonna get ours? When
Yeah.
are we gonna get ours?
yes,
Well, but if you had sensors that
Right.
state the traffic, that's an
Right.
objective,
Right.
here's the
But when are you
traffic
gonna
guys.
put them on? If you would've put them on at the beginning
Of harvest.
of harvest this year, you would have phenomenal numbers. So you can put them on in December or January, and you can get a number what you want.
Well, and I think that's all gonna be relative to
Time of
where you
year.
put the sensors.
Right.
I mean,
Exactly.
right now,
Right,
truck
right.
traffic is,
The harvest time,
Crazy.
there's township roads that have double the traffic of any of those
Well, they can
counties.
do it next fall because there's not gonna be much done.
I'm
just saying, if you're
Before
gonna do
harvest
it-
next year.
No, I think during harvest, when you have traffic, that's what you wanna do.
Yeah.
there were sensors put on County 5 this spring. After we
Yeah.
ground up, there was a sensor put on our ground up portion.
But
of
you
the-
need to have them on a number of roads,
Absolutely.
because, okay, there's 72 vehicles a day on County 5, that doesn't really tell you anything compared to 91 or any of
What's
the other.
coming out of my mouth is what I feel the county can do. Obviously, if we
That's the
had
thing.
unlimited funds, of course we would want to
That's
address
right.
that road.
Yep.
So my words are going to get spun around in the paper anyway, and then it's going to come out that Brent wants to grind up 71. I don't want to grind up any highway. I'm just looking at the reality of what you guys have to do. Okay? Now, the one thing I will say is that by grinding up 71, number one, the weight limit can go to 105.5. Okay? And I would venture to say that if you spoke to anybody that lived along the Heaton Highway, north of Heimdall, north of Bremen, where we have ground up, a year or two after we have ground up, they are so thankful that they're not driving on a beat-up old county paved
Right.
road.
There comes a point where
There comes a point where
rough pavement's worse than gravel.
right. So the sight, the sound, anything of losing your pavement is something that nobody wants to deal with.
Right.
Okay? But a year or two later, when they have a nice, wide, hard, firm aggregate road, they a lot of times spin around. So that I know I'm dragging on, but that is something that I feel is
That also takes care of the speed limit problem.
Why shouldn't there be a speed limit?
well, there will be. It'll be 105.5, but
Well, but, I mean, then they can drive 50 miles an hour or whatever.
the other
But
thing
that's what kills
is
the road, whether it's aggregate or pavement.
there's only 2 residences on that entire 9-mile stretch. Remember that. There's no elevators at either end, and there's 2 residences that are right along the pavement in that entire 9 miles. There is 1 farm shop, okay, and there are 2 living residents that are right next to that road in a 9-mile stretch.
But not very far off, there's a bunch of them.
Correct, but it's not a dust issue. It's not going to be the problem. You
And I
know,
think
so.
it's-
A good constructed road, like, I use the example that Farm Market Road sells over to Animals.
Yep.
There's trucks going 55, 60 miles an hour, and that road is,
I think there's less damage with
You
speed
can
on a
drive
gravel
80.
road than there is with
Right.
pavement. It's-
But it sometimes becomes a safety issue, because this is a bus, there's buses that go on this road. and stuff like that, and we'll learn that as we go here.
Like I said, I am not saying that Brent, it'll come out that way, that's fine. I got broad shoulders, I'm used to it. But Brent does not want to grind up
Right.
71.
Okay.
He just, I
Right,
think
I
it's a
understand.
necessary evil.
Two things, speaking of grinding up, was the Chasely edges?
No, we never did it.
How come?
They didn't have the time at the time, and I never called to get him back to do it.
Well, I'm not getting back, but I was
Yeah.
assuming that when they did this, they were just gonna do that.
There was basically, when they run, you know, they
Oh,
allowed,
they ran into that thick stuff?
they run into the thick stuff, they got behind schedule, and they were working through the rain, and when they were done, they were already behind to their next project. So I did not move them out to Chasely.
Okay.
They were in a hurry to go because
Okay.
what they felt was gonna be a 1.5 day job turned out to be 4.5.
Here's the one other issue that, question I have, then we're gonna move on,
Mhm.
is that Wells County currently mows road ditches on all county roads.
Mhm.
Okay. Should we continue to do that, and how much money would we save? And the reason I ask that, there too, I'm on the edge of two counties. Sheridan County doesn't do that. Pierce County doesn't do that. The Wells County people get hollered at when they do it at certain people that don't think they're doing it right. Let the owners do it.
Well, Sheridan County does the farm to market road south of Martin.
Foster
They do?
County,
You better believe they do.
Foster County mows all their highways twice in the fall. What is your cost? The track, you guys have already bought the batwing mower several years ago. The tractor pulling the batwing mower is the rental tractor that you have, and we are not exceeding the hours on that tractor by doing it. So your cost is fuel and a man. And
I mean, I just throw it out there.
yes, we did catch feedback. I mean, we
Well,
caught
right.
hell from one person, and if you drive by where we were, what we did, it looks great right now. We are going to go back down to Bowden and mow a bad spot down there. Ultimately, in a perfect world, if everybody would mow their ditches, yeah, we probably wouldn't have to do it. But being we have the tractor, we're not exceeding hours. We have the batwing mower. It's just a matter of some fuel and a man. The state highway department does it. Foster County does it. There are more and more counties that are starting to do it,
Okay.
just to help with snow removal in the winter, because I think if we drove county pavement right now, you're going to find some spots that have not been mowed. The only mowing that was done is the mowing that we did.
Well, they are, because the landowner beside it is expecting you to do it.
Right.
So they won't
Right.
do it.
Well, the
If
thing
we
is,
have
a
a
lot
policy saying they're in charge of it,
of it got hayed early, and we had a lot of moisture, so
Yeah.
a lot of it regrew.
Regrew.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay, all right,
Yeah.
that's all I had.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not against it. If you guys
Well,
don't
I
want us
just
to
threw it
do
out
it, we
there.
won't.
Right.
You know, we kind of got in the habit of doing this a couple years ago when we had the batwing, when we bought the
All right,
batwing.
we haven't done it for the last.
We never
10
used to
years.
do it.
Never.
Never.
It's one of those things where you catch heck for doing it in one place, and other people are wondering why you're not there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, any other question for Brent? All right,
Brian's here. so-
Brian, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Yes, right there.
My name is Brian Arkwright. Most of you know me from before. And my inquiry today stems from the last meeting we had, and you guys said some things that just struck me a little bit funny, and that this meeting is not to be controversial. This meeting is to be informative for you and informative to me. I looked through your minutes and I couldn't find answers to these questions, so that's why I asked to be on the agenda, so maybe I can get answers.
Okay.
And so if I come across sometimes as too strong, just go like this, and that's fine. Okay? And I know
We
my
can-
personality.
We can handle it.
Okay.
I'll take it.
Okay. I've had 50 years of tax preparation. So that sort of sets a frame that I believe the devil's in the detail. And I'm glad to hear that this morning that you're talking about keeping costs down, etc. Because whatever decisions you make on bridges and roads affect every member of the 3,500 people in this county. It affects them, because that's one of the main costs that you have to deal with. I wish your minutes were more